Hi there, and welcome to this video. Although I wouldn't call Dragon Quest II my favorite Dragon Quest game, I do consider it a very important stepping stone for the series from the simplistic Dragon Quest I to the fully fledged Dragon Quest III. Arguably its most significant addition to the series is combat between many party members and many monsters, in contrast with the one-on-one combat of Dragon Quest I. Other notable additions included a new form of transportation by ship, 3 reusable keys, gambling in the form of a simple slot machine, pieces of equipment with special effects when used in battle, and every enemy being able to drop an item after battle. Dragon Quest III would expand upon several of these things with a customizable party of up to 4 characters, a new form of transportation by air, a now standard progression of key levels, and gambling in the form of betting gold on monster battles. For all its additions to the series, however, Dragon Quest II is widely regarded as one of the more difficult Dragon Quest games. The NES version of Dragon Quest II is my pick for the hardest mainline Dragon Quest because of its many balancing issues. When doing research for this video, I discovered that Dragon Quest I and II were released only 8 months apart in Japan. I also found a 1989 interview with Yuji Horii, the writer and designer for Dragon Quest II, and Koichi Nakamura, its main programmer, that begins with a section about the challenges of Dragon Quest II. While developing the game, both had played Up Through the Boat many times. Nakamura felt pretty good about that portion of the game, but admitted, after that, I don't like the game very much. The difficulty balance of the monsters, fell short of my aspirations. Horii reflected that they just didn't have the time to balance out the game beyond the boat, and according to Nakamura, not a single person on the development had played the game all the way through when the final version had to go on for production. For Dragon Quest III, however, they had ample time to make sure it would be completely balanced and tested from start to finish. One of the main balancing issues with the NES version was with one of the 3 characters you controlled. The Prince of Midenhall excels at dealing and taking physical damage but never learns magic. On the opposite end of the spectrum, the Princess of Moonbrooke learns some of the game's best spells but is physically weak. Finally, you have the Prince of Cannock in the middle, as he can fight with both weapons and spells, but not as well as either of his cousins. Cannock in the NES version earned a reputation of being infamously mediocre compared to his cousins, to the point where some Dragon Quest art and cosplays depict him as useless since he's always the first one to die. Later, the remakes of Dragon Quest II would buff him with some new choices for a weapon, notably Erdrick's sword and a light sword, and improved versions of his spells, especially Firebane and Revive. Today, I'd like to put those jokes about him to the test. Can you beat Dragon Quest II on Game Boy Color without the Prince of Cannock? Here are the ground rules for the challenge. First, the game forces you to have Cannock join the party because these guards will block the way to Hamlin if you don't have him, even if he's dead. He will never gain even 1 point of experience in the challenge, as he will die in the first battle after joining. Second, the remakes of Dragon Quest II have a subplot where if you go to Beran and rest at the end, Cannock will be cursed and bedridden until you give him a world leaf. As soon as possible after getting the ship, I will sail to Beran to abandon him there for the rest of the game. Finally, until Cannock leaves the party, I may not use his coffin as a backpack for free inventory space beyond what Midenhall and Moonbrooke can carry on their own. I pose no other restrictions on how I go about playing the game, so without further ado, let's get started with the challenge. I first had to play the game like normal up until recruiting Cannock. To summarize, I got the copper sword and 50 gold from the king, grinded to level 4, went to the hero spring, and recruited Cannock in Leftwind. After selling Cannock's club and leather armor, I had the gold to buy chainmail and a leather shield for Midenhall. I then got into a battle, killed him off, and discovered that Cannock's father has some special dialogue if you talk to him with Cannock dead. Since Cannock wasn't doing me any favors anytime soon, my immediate priority was saving the Princess of Moonbrooke. I got lucky and arrived in Hamlin by running away from everything on the way there. I used the same strategy to get the Laura Mirror, but it took me 3 tries because of bad luck against tough enemies ganging up on Midenhall. Nevertheless, I was ready to take on the world of Torland with the dynamic duo of Midenhall and Moonbrooke. Even this early in the game, I could already feel the effects of not having Cannock. First, Moonbrooke joins with Healmore and never learns the basic heal spell. At this point in the game, this is problematic since you can't use Healmore's full potential but have to take the higher MP cost anyway since you have no other choice besides herbs. The 2 MP difference adds up quickly too with how often you have to heal in this game. Second, not having Cannock meant that enemies' attacks were more concentrated on Midenhall and Moonbrooke. This actually made me discover a very important strategy for surviving in this challenge, that most enemies are weak to either sleep or surround. By making enemies either miss with physical attacks or even not act at all, the duo could fight more effectively as well as save their herbs and MP for later. Third, until Moonbrooke learns Infernos level 4, Midenhall is the only competent damage dealer. Against enemies with high defense like armor peats, I had to resort to casting Sleep and slowly chipping away at their health, whereas one cast of Fireball from Cannock usually kills one outright. On a side note, this also hampers my usual method of grinding gold near Hamlin, as armor peats can drop other armor that you can sell for over 100 gold a pop. In the process of grinding Moonbrooke to level 4, I earned enough money to upgrade Midenhall's chainmail to steel armor. I then felt prepared for going to the Tower of Wind. Although I got the Wind Cape without much trouble, I did forget to bring a Warp Wing with me, and Moonbrooke had run out of MP by the time I got back to Hamlin. Before heading to Leonport, I grinded a little for a steel sword. The trek there was fairly uneventful except for a battle against a baboon and 3 man-eaters. Moonbrooke almost died with Midenhall asleep, but luckily was able to run away. At the top of the tower, I made sure that I had the Wind Cape equipped and jumped across the river to arrive in Leonport. The Leonport mini-boss against 2 gremlins had a bit of a rough start with Fire Breath and 1 attack on Midenhall. However, the rest of the battle was surprisingly easy after I killed one of them in 2 hits and put the other to sleep. I then won the ship and grinded to buy an evade cloth for Moonbrooke. With the ship, I would normally sail to Tantegel first, but I wanted to get rid of Cannock as soon as possible. Sailing to Beran was the most frustrating part of the challenge so far due to bad luck with failing to run away and being put to sleep by sea slugs and jellyfish. It took me a total of 7 attempts to finally arrive in Beran after getting to land once on my 3rd. In order to abandon Cannock here, I needed 20 gold to revive him, 90 to rest at the end, and optionally another 25 for a Warp Wing. I arrived with only 6 gold on hand, but earlier I had thankfully deposited some slot tokens into storage so I could sell for enough gold. Upon warping back to Leonport without Cannock, I considered the challenge to have fully begun in earnest. I also learned that you can only trigger the event with Cannock if everyone is alive. I found it interesting that the developers programmed this in, and that somebody had to test all the possible parties with it. If anything, at least they made it so Cannock can't force the game over by resting at the end by himself. After the detour to get rid of Cannock, I arrived in Tantegel. Here, I spent about half an hour grinding to prepare for Charlock Castle. In the process, I bought a 2nd evade cloth, an amulet, and a wizard wand. I also got lucky against an enchanter and got a 2nd amulet for free. It took a few attempts, but I successfully retrieved Erdrick's sword from Charlock with Midenhall level 12 and Moonbrooke at level 8. I actually ended up using it all the way through the challenge up until getting the Thunder Sword. I didn't plan on doing this from the start, but I didn't think it was worth grinding the gold for an upgrade like a light sword or a dragon sword. One of the more inconvenient parts about this challenge was not having some of Cannock's exclusive spells, especially Outside, Return, and Step Guard. With Outside, he learns it around this point in the game, but Moonbrooke doesn't until almost the endgame, even learning Heal All 2 levels prior. Having to find my way back to the entrance lets me earn more experience, but it's entirely possible I could run out of resources and die. With Return, only he ever learns it, so Warp Wings were a consistent purchase and use of precious inventory space for the entire challenge. With Step Guard, the bottom floor of Charlock Castle has the world map, among other things. I skipped it on my first visit because crossing the damage tiles for it would have used too much of Moonbrooke's MP. With Alfgard taken care of for now, I next traveled to Osterfair and Zahan. I got lucky with a metal slime outside of Osterfair and with the critical hit in the Saber Lion fight to earn the Moon Seal. I had some trouble finding Zahan without a world map, but eventually arrived there for the gold key. I got several more important items in quick succession after that. Erdrick's seal from the Midenhall treasure vault, a suit of magic armor from Osterfair, Erdrick's shield from Cannock, the silver key from the Lake Cave, and from Welgarth, the jail key and the dam key. When in Cannock, I found an error in the king's dialogue from when he notices his son's absence. Notice how here, he uses Midenhall's name where it should have Cannock's name. With the jail key, I returned to Hamlin for the mini-boss fight against 2 Oswargs and expected at least a moderate challenge. However, just like earlier with winning the ship, I got lucky with putting them to sleep. This time around, I actually ended up winning the fight and the water seal without taking any damage. I revisited Alfgard, where I got Erdrick's helmet and the world map I had mentioned earlier. I found the lighthouse with the world map, but getting to the star seal didn't go quite as well as I hoped it would. I felt it was best to leave the lighthouse for later, travel to Toon, and open the dam. I then went to fight the Magus in the Midenhall jail, and this was my first attempt against it. Okay, not looking forward to this fight, but here goes. Lucky critical hit, maybe? Dang it. Well, what do you know? Okay. So yeah, that was pretty lucky. Next on my list was the water rope. On my way to get the dew yarn, I stopped by the fire shrine for the sun seal. I sailed as a hand for the holy loom, then back to Toon to deliver the items to Don Mahone. Right after that, I visited Loon Tower. The enemies here marked what I felt was the first major difficulty spike for the run, but I was still able to retrieve the moon shard and grind a little. At one point, they were able to kill Moonbrooke, and I barely escaped by the skin of my teeth. Next, I saved in Beran, reset the game, and then returned to Don Mahone to get the water rope. I also grinded for a heal shield on some of the top floors of Loon Tower, which are my favorite grinding spots in Dragon Quest II prior to the Cave to Rhone. You can get iron helmets from gargoyles and sell them for over 2,000 gold a pop, and you can also find metal baubles every now and then. After getting the heal shield, I returned to the Lighthouse. It took me a while to find the right way to go for the star seal, but I eventually arrived at the gremlin mini-boss after a much easier trip than my last time here. During the mini-boss, I accidentally selected Flee when trying to select Cast and got put to sleep. This almost proved to be a fatal mistake for me, but I somehow managed to both recover from it and win the fight for the star seal. Before entering the cave to Rhone, I only had to go to the sea cave for the evil statue. It was a challenging dungeon with hard-hitting enemies like saber lions, mega knights, and metal hunters. Because sleep was ineffective against most enemies there, I had to rely on surround making them miss. Moonbrooke learned heal all on the way down, but I would have preferred getting outside. I'm not quite sure how it happened, but the evil clown mini-boss performed a first strike in battle. Nevertheless, I still won the fight and the evil statue. Moonbrooke still hadn't learned outside, so I had to exit the sea cave on foot. When I finally escaped, she had run out of MP, and I also unfortunately forgot to bring a warp wing. I was able to return to Welgarth in one piece by trading the heal shield between Midenhall and Moonbrooke as needed. After restocking and warping back to Beran, I noticed I was a few thousand gold away from a falcon sword, so I returned to Loon Tower to grind and quickly got the money to purchase one. With my preparations for the Cave to Rhone completed, I took my first step into it and got onto my first battle. Okay, Cave to Rhone. It's 2, 3. Could I actually get it? I think that's it. Yep, there we go. Nice start to the stream. Are you serious? My first one! Wow. Not only was it my first time killing a Metabol this run, but I got a magic cap from it. Although the dungeon does give you one in a treasure chest later, I was shocked that this was my very first encounter here. Going through the cave without Cannock went much smoother than I thought it would, especially considering Midenhall still had Erdrick's sword instead of something stronger like a dragon sword or a light sword. On my first visit, I got the life seal, the extra magic cap, Erdrick's armor, and the thunder sword before returning to Beran. I obtained Rubus's charm and another world leaf for the return voyage to the cave. Midenhall with the thunder sword could kill most of the cave's enemies in one hit except for robosters, so the full trek to Rhone itself was much easier even after taking a wrong turn in the labyrinthine final floor. I was glad to finally arrive at the Rhone shrine, but the nearby enemies were too strong for me. I ended up grinding in the final room of the cave to Rhone until Moonbrooke got to level 19 and Lord exploded. In the process, I found a magic cap from a magic vampirus, go figure, huh? And a devil sword from a dragon. I also got the money to buy a second heal shield. Next up was the first of many attempts at storming Hargon's castle. Atlas wasn't much of a challenge, but I did consider myself lucky to surround it on the first turn and win without anybody dying. Pazuzu on the other hand, well, my first try ended with it sacrificing itself. Nevertheless, I easily prevailed against it on my next visit. It's worth noting that you can prevent sacrifice with Cannock's stop spell, but it only works against normal bat demons as Pazuzu is immune. Zarlox is where the boss gauntlet started getting difficult. Midenhall's damage output alone just wasn't enough to kill it before heal all, and all I could really hope for was a critical hit because of Zarlox's immunity to defense. On my third attempt, I somehow won after I forgot to cast heal all for 8 turns apparently. Hargon was rather annoying with strong double attacks, Exploded, Heal More, and Sweet Breath. There's also the fact that if Malroth kills you, you have to fight Hargon all over again before you get another chance at Malroth. Anyways, a big disadvantage to not having Cannock here was that Moonbrooke couldn't use a heal shield and defend in the same turn. Another was that Increase would significantly reduce the damage from Hargon's blows and make defending unnecessary. In any case, Hargon was still very much beatable without Cannock. Malroth was fittingly the hardest part of the entire challenge. Both of the problems with no Cannock against Hargon carried over, especially the one about no increase because Malroth knew defense. A crucial part of fighting Hargon without Cannock was his high but imperfect resistance to surround. It didn't help against intense flames, but gave me at least a chance at surviving his physical assaults. After several failed attempts against Hargon and Malroth, I realized that I needed to start playing more defensively in order to win. Before this, they'd commonly end any chance of victory by attacking someone twice and then quickly using exploded or intense flames if that wasn't enough to kill. To counter this, I always had Moonbrooke defend whenever she wasn't healing, and Midenhall defend if an exploded or intense flames would kill him. Eventually, I got a lucky break. With Hargon, I got a critical hit on the first turn and beat him without anybody dying. With Malroth, Surround worked in the first turn and made him miss a total of 8 times. Later, he killed Moonbrooke with a double attack, but let me revive for the next turn for free by casting Increase. After a fierce battle lasting 29 turns and over 4 minutes, I can confidently say that all those jokes about Cannock were true all along, because yes, you can beat Dragon Quest II without the Prince of Cannock. You may be wondering, is there any kind of reward for doing this? The developers did account for this happening and put in some special dialogue and cutscenes for you. If you return to Cannock Castle without him, the king and princess will comment on his absence. He himself also has 2 special cutscenes, one in the Beran Inn, and one at Midenhall Castle. No matter which one you choose, he must rejoin the party for the ending, with all 5 seals apparently, and also take some of the credit for defeating Hargon. The ending in the Game Boy Color version has several still images that still feature Cannock even if you didn't use him. For me, most of the difficulty in the challenge run came from rushing through the game at a lower level than intended. On my file with everyone at the max level, I was able to beat Hargon and Malroth without Cannock relatively easily since Midenhall and Moonbrooke had a lot more HP. Before I close out this video, I'd like to pose a challenge for you, the viewer. Try to beat Hargon and Malroth at the lowest level you can without Cannock. At the time of recording this, the best I could do was with Midenhall at level 27 and Moonbrooke at level 21 before learning Revive. Leave a comment with your results, and thank you for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it.